How to determine if someone is responsible and dependable. In the complex world of relationships, understanding the dynamics of human behavior and emotional intelligence is crucial. Two key aspects that significantly impact our romantic partnerships are the level of mentalization and the phenomenon of the good person complex. These concepts shed light on why some relationships thrive while others falter, and how our childhood experiences and defense mechanisms shape our adult interactions. Let's explore these ideas in depth to gain a better understanding of successful relationships and personal growth. To determine if a person is responsible, we shouldn't look at their educational background or family wealth, but rather their level of mentalization. Many people overlook this aspect when dating. After investing a lot of time and effort, they might discover their partner lacks responsibility when discussing marriage. For instance, if there's a disagreement about the prenuptial agreement or parental disapproval, an irresponsible person might simply run away, leaving their partner depressed for a long time. So, to judge whether someone is worthy of lifelong commitment, we should primarily consider their level of mentalization. In psychology, mentalization refers to the ability to understand one's own and others' mental states. Simply put, it's the capacity for empathy and perspective-taking. What determines a person's level of mentalization? We can look at it from two dimensions. First, when facing problems, do they use mature or immature defense mechanisms? For example, under extreme pressure, if a person becomes highly emotional, loses their temper, or denies and distorts facts, it indicates a low level of mentalization. They habitually project their thoughts onto others and vent their anger on someone who isn't the source of the problem. Such individuals, when facing issues, don't try to solve them or communicate with you. Instead, they avoid the problem or even try to solve it by ending the relationship to ensure their own safety. NPD is a typical example of low mentalization. People with NPD can't update their self-perception or correctly understand and process their own and others' emotions. Whenever they're unhappy, they blame others, find reasons to criticize their partner, and can become very emotional and change their attitude abruptly. Conversely, if a person clearly and firmly communicates their needs when facing problems, or expresses their negative emotions in a humorous or altruistic way to resolve conflicts with you, they likely have a higher level of mentalization. The higher a person's mentalization level, the more positive, empathetic, and mature their defense mechanisms become. Such individuals can understand the true intentions behind others' actions and see the real state of a relationship clearly, without being swayed by others' emotions. The second aspect to consider is the mentalization level of their parents. Mentalization depends on being mentalized, which means it relies on the caregiver's level of mentalization. From this perspective, a person's family of origin greatly influences their future intimate relationships. If a person's parents have low mentalization levels, are unable to handle negative emotions in family relationships, frequently blame and complain about others, and have extreme controlling tendencies, it can prevent their child from developing mature mentalization patterns in adulthood. If a child's parents are emotionally unstable, like to establish rules for trivial matters, treat their child in an overly adult manner, micromanage everything, deny the child's needs, and constantly suppress the child's nature, it prevents the child from growing and gaining a sense of achievement through independent exploration and task completion. As adults, such individuals may either lack problem-solving skills and tend to avoid issues, or develop personalities similar to their parents, seeking value through authority, having a strong desire for control, lacking empathy, blaming others for problems instead of self-reflecting. In psychology, we call this personality recapitulation, which is essentially a form of psychological regression. This explains why many people end up behaving like their parents, even though they despise the state their family of origin has put them in. Ultimately, it's because parents subconsciously input these patterns into our brains, causing us to unconsciously repeat behaviors and methods we dislike. Therefore, the most important way to choose a partner is to assess their level of mentalization, as marriage is a choice that greatly impacts the rest of our lives. Marriage represents two people leaving their families of origin to form a new family together. If one person remains at an immature, low level of mentalization and can't become an adult, the other person inevitably has to take on a parental role, bearing double the hardship. If you don't want your married life to start on a difficult mode, you need to choose the right partner. While the level of mentalization plays a crucial role in determining the health of a relationship, Another important factor is how partners perceive and present themselves within the relationship dynamic. This brings us to the concept of the good person complex, which can significantly impact the power balance and emotional well-being of both individuals in a partnership. Understanding this phenomenon can help us recognize unhealthy patterns and foster more authentic, balanced relationships. If you find yourself becoming increasingly short-tempered, domineering, or controlling in a relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person or unfit for love. It's possible that your partner is gradually pushing you to become worse. They might be doing this to create an image of themselves as the good person to satisfy their own ego needs. For instance, they might need you to be lazy to highlight their diligence, weak to emphasize their contributions to the family, or prone to outbursts to contrast with their emotional stability. In other words, the worse you appear, the better they look. This is a form of subtle emotional manipulation, as the essence of being the good person is actually a struggle for power. By becoming the good person in everyone's eyes, they automatically claim the moral high ground. This allows them to demand that you relinquish certain rights, or else you'll be seen as the definitive bad person. I recall a dating reality show where a woman's love for her husband was rooted in ideas of self-sacrifice. She constantly mentioned, "I'll have a child for you," emphasizing her sacrifice to prove she was a good person and to demand more love in return. When she felt her husband didn't love her enough, she would hysterically shout, "I gave you a home. How dare you treat me like this?" Her husband was equally obsessed with being the good person. He portrayed himself as humble, innocent, and infinitely tolerant of his partner. By playing the victim, he gained sympathy from others, directing all blame and criticism towards his wife. The more his wife broke down, the calmer he appeared, even writing love letters saying he loved the woman who hurt him. The subtext was clear: "You're so temperamental. No one but me could tolerate you." While everyone sympathized with the husband, they failed to see how his lack of acknowledgement and response gradually pushed his wife to her breaking point. Both individuals in this relationship were trying to be the good person, competing in misery to claim the moral high ground. This reflects their attachment needs and self-esteem issues. In psychology, there's a term called traumatic bonding, which refers to a strong emotional attachment between an abuser and their victim. This trauma often stems from a lack of secure attachment in childhood. As adults, when they encounter someone who evokes familiar feelings of trauma, they're deeply attracted. They feel strange when they're in love. Conversely, they only find familiarity in problematic partners. In other words, they have a need for this kind of abuse, and their partner happens to fulfill this need. Even if the relationship is painful, they won't easily let go. Like the couple I mentioned earlier, they may constantly threaten divorce, but until they can recognize their inner wounds and address their feelings of powerlessness, they'll continue this cycle of toxic love, constantly entangled. They both need their problematic partner to fulfill their ideal of being the good person. This good person act is common in intimate relationships. For example, during arguments, one party might emphasize their sacrifices and contributions, using their good person status to emotionally blackmail their partner into the bad person role. Or they might constantly bring up past mistakes to undermine their partner's self-esteem while maintaining their own sense of superiority. That's why I said at the beginning, if you're becoming increasingly difficult in a relationship, don't doubt yourself. It's likely that your partner's good person act is subtly transforming you. In a relationship, if one person wants to be the good guy, the other inevitably becomes the bad guy. But in most cases, both individuals want to be the good person, leading to an unavoidable power struggle that ultimately causes the relationship to collapse. This is why I always emphasize that smart people understand not to prove themselves as the good person in a relationship. I have a bad temper, so he can't come home too late, or I'll get angry. I'm possessive, so I don't allow him to go out early. By openly admitting to being the bad person, you prevent others from morally blackmailing you. Moreover, as long as they need the good person identity, they'll always need you as the bad person to rely on and will naturally give to you in return. If you enjoyed this series, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your free likes are the greatest encouragement for me. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.